What's up, investors? It's the Russian dude. Every time you blink, some talking head in Washington or Moscow insists they have cracked the code to end the 3-year war in Ukraine. 1 minute it is Trump promising a 2-week miracle. The next, it is Peskov already being all poetic about a whole series of nuances, that the Kremlin needs in order to stop fighting. There are even the first hints of going full Korean scenario in case the conflict sees absolutely no resolution in sight. Zelensky meanwhile pleads for a real pressure, sanctions that hurt, not just warning statements, and then security guarantees, Western weapons, and new alliances. So today, let's investigate what these nuances are. Look into why peace talks are just the headline-producing spectacle, at least for now. Let's try to figure out what can actually stop these guns from firing, and what peace in whatever sort, shape or form it might be will look like in the future. Step into the Kremlin press room and you will see Peskov juggling the world nuances around like a confetti at a carnival. Putin supports a ceasefire, sure, but first we have to resolve everything. From the legal status of Crimea and occupied territories, the presence of foreign troops on Ukrainian land, the attacks against energy infrastructure, to some most minor details as which official language to be installed on these problematic regions. These are the small minor nuances kinda Peskov talks about. And it is with absolute intent that there are so many and that they are not that simple by any means. It is purposefully made it so complicated and unattainable that the whole goal of even making such statements is once again to show that Russia is ready and wants peace. It is Ukrainians, and particularly Zelensky, who wants to keep fighting just so he can stay in power forever. Exchange Russia with Ukraine and Ukraine with Russia in this sentence, and we almost have an adequate demand. Meanwhile, Trump is on social media, swaggering that he will broker a peace faster than you can say fake news. Want a ceasefire in 14 days? Piece of cake, he says. Just throw in some territorial concessions, some minor details. Crimea and a quarter of Ukraine. Yeah, sure, why not? Let's just sign peace first and then we will talk out these inconvenient details. But here's the kicker. Neither side even agrees on the menu. Does Russia's support include pulling troops back to pre-2014 lines, or just swapping out one brand of military confrontation for another? Well, it does not look like. Putin is extremely convinced that all these occupied territories and more are already a part of Russia, and only grave will change his opinion. Does then Ukraine agree to give up almost half of its country? Absolutely not. People will not accept it. Why were tens of thousands sacrifices then made? This will be the very first and very logical question, obviously. And even if, theoretically speaking, Zelensky does give up Ukraine in favor of peace, this will be considered a treason according to the Ukrainian constitution itself. He will no longer be welcomed in his own country and not to many other places, that is 100% for sure. So, the only logical question now is the following then. Is Trump's peace plan handwritten on a napkin or some post-it note that now lies inside his Oval Office desk? And if the negotiations cannot even agree when the meeting starts, why would they believe the guns will ever actually stop?
Now setting a deadline for Russia and Ukraine to negotiate a peace deal.
What is the actual date? What is the timeline?
2 weeks or less, and if it's a little more at the time, I say, but, they're losing a lot of people.
Negotiations without clarity are like chasing a mirage in the desert. I mean, sure, it shimmers somewhere on the horizon, but the closer you get, the more you get stuck in the sinking sand. Now imagine you're a mom in Kharkiv, scrolling through Telegram at dawn because your power is out again, and you read that another round of productive talks just wrapped up in Berlin. You wonder, did these fine folks discuss the fact that 45 people just got wounded by Russian drones last night? Or is it that detail that got skipped so it doesn't intervene with trying to figure out the nuances? What about the grieving father in Dnipro who lost his son while the diplomats passed pleasantries to each other? All these talks that do not even have a real deadline are just another PR stunt with suited delegates shaking hands beneath chandeliers. It reeks of a spectacle, an expensive production that draws applause but never ends the actual play. So, what are the possible outcomes of this war then? Well, recently, Russians started hinting at the possibility of the so-called Korean scenario. Let's talk about it right now. If peace talks are a mirage, the front line is a frozen tableau straight out of the World War I, only with drones instead of biplanes. Imagine this. Muddy trenches etched into the earth, some soaked with rainwater, some stiff as iron in the winter's grip. Men huddle behind crumbling walls, swapping grim jokes about the weather and missing home. The town of Bakhmut has become a symbol of this war, a cratered scrap of land that neither side can snatch for good, almost just like two dogs wrestling over a wrecked and almost destroyed toy. Ukrainians cannot get it back. Russians cannot repopulate it and begin the reconstruction. So unfortunately, for the next several years, it will most likely remain in its present state of being just realistic decoration from a war movie. Except that this is the real life. Does anyone really win in this scenario? You gain an empty village, propped up casualties, and a mountain of unanswered questions. The war of attrition rages on, artillery duels that shake windows 50 miles away, sniper teams stalking each other across shattered fields, supply convoys funnel through mined roads like death traps. Neither side can deliver the final blow. Both armies can still muster 1 million troops apiece if they really need to. Both have enough shells in their magazines to last months, if not years. Some produce their own, some receive this as a crucial support from their partners. And that is the brutal math that no one in the press room dares to mention. Let's now talk seasons even. Winter mud gives way to spring quagmire, turning roads into sludge so deep even a tank drowns in it. Summer scorch dries the landscape to tinder, where every spark can spark a new inferno. Fall leaves hide tripwires and booby traps. It is a cycle that feeds itself, an endless loop of blood and mud broken only by temporary ceasefires when both sides catch finally their breath. You would think one side would snap under the pressure, exhaustion, supply shortages, and morale collapse, but no. Both Russians and Ukrainians kind of learn to live in this new reality. Russian forces endure sanctions and domestic grumbling. Ukrainians, on the other hand, they dig in for just another rotation. The human toll climbs, hundreds of thousands eliminated, millions displaced, but the map just even barely shifts. What is the point of calling a ceasefire when you know that the moment the ink on the peace agreement dries, somebody is going to light the matches once again? As you can see, none of this promises the near end of war. So, what can potentially happen is the so-called Korean scenario, obviously referring to South and North Korea, where the war is permanently frozen along current front lines. The guns mostly fall silent, and current presiding authorities just leave the resolution of this problem for future generations. We don't know how to solve the problem, so we'll let others take care of it. That is the mindset of this scenario. With only one big problem being here is that any cessation of hostilities is unacceptable for Putin. He loves the war he created. This is an endless well of patriotism and support that he can drink from every single day without the fear of it going completely dry. When soldiers perish, they fill the well to the edges. A won battle, an eliminated hero of Russia, every single consequences of this war can be used in propagandistic purposes. And that's what Putin loves so much about the inability to end this war. For as long as he lives, he will do everything possible to keep the conflict simmering. So this Korean scenario, while theoretically possible, is most likely going to happen after Putin is long gone. Let's now briefly talk about his bargaining advantages that he currently holds. Here is a dirty secret. War is Putin's best bargaining chip. As long as the guns roar, world leaders have to contact the Kremlin, waggle carrots and sticks, and dance to his tune. Putin is the center of attention. Once the ceasefire holds, that leverage vanishes. Sanctions lose their effectiveness, foreign investors pull back, and Russia becomes just another cold-weather state trying to sell natural resources, gas. So why would Putin slam on the brakes then? In this case, he would give up the diplomatic pedestal, the channels of backroom influence, and the sense that he is indispensable. So does he want it? Of course, no. On the other side, Zelensky cannot blink either. Ask him to surrender Kherson or Zaporozhye, and the Ukrainian parliament would impeach him on the spot immediately. Any leader who waves that white flag risks being branded the next Marshal Pétain, treasonous French collaborator and a national disgrace who wanted to sell France to Germany. It is a high-stakes poker game where neither player will show their cards. Now sprinkle in the side players. European bureaucrats arguing over winter gas supplies, the US elections result which changed literally everything, China quietly scoring geopolitical points, Turkey proposing itself as mediator, and NATO rattling sabers without ever pulling the trigger. Everyone wants a slice of the pie, but nobody wants to bake the cake. Good analogy, right? So yeah. Trump's talk of peace within 2 weeks is pure brand marketing. He sells hope like energy drinks, and he always needs a better headline. But when the photo shoot ends, the empty streets of Mariupol will still be lined with rubble, they will still be there, nothing will change. The positions are fixed. Russia will not budge an inch on occupied territories. Ukraine will not surrender a square meter, and the rest of us are left watching this political stalemate. If you think this is just about soldiers and tanks, well, guys, let's just think again together. It is a Silicon Valley versus Skolkovo spectacle, where drones, cyber attacks, and data hacks join artillery in the carnage. Just 2 years ago, drone war meant a handful of just Turkish Bayraktars buzzing overhead and nothing more than this. Today, we've got swarms of FPVs, AI-guided recon drones, optic fiber drones, long-endurance winged robots, electronic warfare units, jamming signals, and a drone hunter stalking skies like aerial hawks. Every time one side unveils a game-changer, the other immediately reverse engineers it within literally several days. It is an arms race where the technology treadmill never stops speeding up. On the money front, both economies have turned wartime finance into an extreme sport. Russia brags about surviving sanctions with its $40,000 sign-on bonuses for recruits. Ukraine counters with $48,000 contracts for 18 to 24-year-olds. You would think any normal person would run screaming away from the bullets. But when your other option is either eviction or ruin, a chance at real cash feels like a lifeline. Remittances from the diaspora flow in, oligarchs' fortunes slosh around offshore accounts, and black markets buzz with activity. And meanwhile, everyday folks pay triple prices for groceries, if they can even find them, and ration then electricity when the grid is damaged under another missile attack. Yet the Ukrainian hryvnia can still be used in Berlin, and the Russian ruble still widely accepted around Moscow's malls and even some post-Soviet countries. It is a testament to market resilience, or just perhaps another collective insanity. The front line is not the only battleground. Cyber spies probe government servers, social media trolls wage their own kind of warfare, and diplomats fight tooth and nail over frozen assets in Swiss banks. Every domain becomes a contested zone, from the airwaves to the fiber optic lines. Even humanitarian corridors turn to gauntlets as aid convoys dodge sniper and bureaucratic roadblocks. Victory is not just capturing land, it is controlling the narrative. But for every flattering CNN segment, there is a dozen YouTube videos of destroyed hospitals and playgrounds. For every viral hero story, there is a ghostly cemetery in the background. The war economy feeds on chaos, and chaos never sleeps. Well, there you have it, guys. If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe to my channel for more videos like this. If you wish to support my work, there are links down below, for example my Patreon, where you can find some uncensored footage from Ukrainian front lines, and also you can see these episodes in the early access. Thanks so much for watching, see you tomorrow.